All right, what do you want to say first, Leo?
Leo Gameland 2 is coming today.
Yeah, we're going to start Leo's new channel. We'll keep you guys posted on that. Today we're going to build on a theme that we've been discussing the last couple videos. The last one we did was knives versus axes, and we made it pretty clear by the end of that axes have a far more utility in the woods than what knives do. I never even use a knife for that reason. I always carry an axe with me because it's a lot of wasted effort using a knife to do the same thing that an axe can do. Now we're going to go into hatchets versus tomahawks, because as you gravitate from a knife into something like a proper woods tool like an axe, usually backpackers and hikers and stuff like that are going to want a lightweight, small option to pack with them. And so this is where you get into hatchets and tomahawks. And there's pros and cons to each of them and different applications that they're used for. So that's what we're going to discuss a little bit today. We're also going to build on Leo's great little survival video the other day where he built a fire for you guys in the woods. And in that video we panned around and showed you some trees in the area that had dry branches at the bottom that we could use for firewood. So what happens is as those trees grow up and the canopy starts to block sunlight from the lower branches, those lower branches will die. And on those evergreen trees you have fir and spruce and pine mostly in our forest over there. You can often go along and cut out the bottom branches and they'll be really dry for firewood. But that said, because those branches are dry, they're also very hard. And they often take a good smack at the base of the branch where it meets the tree in order to take that limb off. You can watch Leo do that on our video, The Fraud of Survivalism and Bushcraft and Stuff type channels. Leo's out limbing trees with his axe, doing just what I said. But it's a lot easier limbing green branches than it is limbing dry branches. When you get into dry branches, those, especially on like a tree like a spruce tree, they're really, really hard wood. And to try to take those off the tree, again, even with a full-size survival knife like this here, and you get hacking at it, it's not nearly as easy as dropping the head of something like this hatchet down on that, where the weight is all forward on an axe. This thing just clobbers those branches off compared to a knife where you're probably left chipping away at it. So that's why, again, we're going to look at carrying axes and tomahawks in the woods rather than a knife.
And guys, with that axe over there, it drops squirrel nuts.
Yeah, if you look right here, we've got, I think, what looks like pine nuts, because this was down at our cabin for a long time on the wall, and we took the sheath off here a minute ago, and a bunch of these little nuts fell out from a squirrel must have been eating down there and dropping his crumbs over our axe. So anyways, we've got 3 tomahawks on the table. I only have the one hatchet. This is a Fiskars hatchet here, and it's a fantastic one. This is the one that Leo uses mostly, and I like it because of the design down here at the bottom. It retains your grip, that this won't go, launched out of his hand or anything like that. And it's a nice weight and size that he can take it and control it really well, control his strikes until he gets used to using an axe. And it's hard for him to come around and actually hit something low on his body because of how short this handle is. So it's really good for control. You'll notice though that, and Leo, you noticed this here is every bit as heavy as this here tomahawk.
My favorite one.
Yeah, and that tomahawk has a considerably longer handle. It's because of the axe heads on a tomahawk versus a hatchet. And the first thing you'll notice on the profile this way is that the tomahawk over here is a lot thinner in profile than what this here is. And the reason behind that is that this here would be much better for splitting wood. Okay, if you need sort of a wedge shape in order to cut down through a piece of wood and make it split off to either side. So this would be a better splitting tool. As well, this axe head is a lot heavier, so it's better for striking those branches that I just mentioned. So really, realistically, a hatchet will serve you better in the woods in most scenarios than a tomahawk will for that type of task. This one here, briefly, I'll talk about. This is a Crkt Tomahawk, and it has this kind of hammer end on it, which made this a lot heavier tomahawk head than this one over here by CRKT, which is the Woods Nobo, I think it's called. And I really didn't like that. I wouldn't recommend it to you guys, that you get these attachments off the back. You're probably never going to use it. And I ended up trying to make a longer handle for it because of the additional weight up here, just to make it balance better. I tried making a different handle onto it and had a bit of fun with that. But I really don't like that tomahawk head. And so the next ones I bought were these ones here that have nothing off the back end. They're basically built as lightweight as you can get them. And surprisingly though, that CRKT axe or tomahawk is heavier than this one over here, but has a shorter handle. So I kind of don't like that either. I think this should have had a handle at least as long as this one here, in order again to balance that weight out well.
I really like the lightest weight one. Like,
yeah, that's a nice one for handling for sure. Here's one of the benefits of a tomahawk. I really like this design where they have sort of a circular head to them, and that head can slide on and off the shaft of your tomahawk handle. It friction fits out at the end. So these here, if you want something that's really packable and easy to carry around in the woods with you, I would highly recommend a tomahawk. These are adequate for going along if you're making trails. Say you're out hiking somewhere and you need to limb branches off. These thin heads will limb branches very well, efficiently, and a lot more efficiently again than a knife will. But if you want to do splitting of wood, you are going to want probably more of a hatchet with more of a wedge shape like this and heavier head to it. So if you're doing bushcraft type tasks and making fires and stuff like that, I would say probably a hatchet will serve you better. If you're into just hiking with something lightweight and want to blaze trail and just limb stuff out of your way, I think a tomahawk would be adequate and probably nicer to carry along with you. Tomahawks also had their application as weapons back in the day, and like I say, this would be a little bit more purpose-built for that, where it has a longer handle to it, and that nice thin light head. It makes it a much more lively sort of item than this kind of heavy, clunky hatchet. So, you know, but I don't think anybody really is doing that kind of thing anymore with axes and hatchets and whatever, so that application is pretty limited. If you want, like I say, just a practical tool, I would go with a hatchet. Definitely a hatchet over a knife, and probably the hatchet over any of these tomahawks on the table. I just happen to really like the tomahawk design with the removable head, and I also think these are fun to carry and great when I'm just out like on the three-wheeler and we're blazing trail, or if we want to just take a hike and knock some limbs out of our way or something on our hike, then the tomahawks are fun to carry. They're lightweight and they're a great tool, and again, a lot better than what you're going to get in performance than with a knife. Lastly, I'll just talk a little bit about his Fiskars Axe, his hatchet here. Again, the handle's awesome for retention. These are molded plastic or fiberglass or something that goes on all these Fiskars Axes. And you wouldn't think that that would be very tough, but man, we've put these things through a lot of abuse over the years. I've never had one fail. So I have to say that they will hold up to anything you want to do with a Fiskars Axe. They're relatively cheap compared to when you get into like Grand Force Brooks and these historical sort of companies that make like really well crafted tools. These are more affordable. They'll take a ton of punishment. And so they're built well, and they are very purpose built, so they'll serve you very, very well. These here, this thing came so dull that you can barely limb anything on it. So oftentimes what I find is these tomahawks that are made by companies, yeah, it looks like it, but it's not really at all. These are often made, not crafted very well, some of these tomahawks, because they're made by these novelty type companies. I won't say Cold Steel Knives is a novelty company, but companies like that sometimes, where they're not focused on bushcraft and real usable like utility tools, they often don't come sharp enough. Same thing with the CRKT. This thing was really dull. It's really hard to sharpen because of the grind that they did down here at the beard of the thing, of the tomahawk head. And so, yeah, you're going to have a hard time finding a well-made tomahawk that's nice and sharp and was built for utility. Whereas with hatchets and stuff, you can find really good products with your hatchets. So yeah, I would recommend over anything so far, hatchets. And on our next video, we'll get into talking about larger axes again and why you want to move up from a hatchet into something more this type of size, the Scandinavian forest axe. So that's it for today. Thank you for watching. I hope the information serves you well.
Anyways, guys, bye. Peace. I'm guessing for 5 likes today. Peace.